Welcome to Season 10, Episode 33 of the Ubuntu podcast. It's Tuesday, the 17th of October, and we're going to discuss what's been happening in the news and in the community. I'm Mark, and joining me this week are Alan.
Oi, oi.
And Martin.
What's up?
You're both very down with the kids this week.
Yeah.
Word.
So, Alan, what have you been doing?
I have been doing what all the cool kids are doing, and that is flashing a new operating system on my mobile-y device.
I understand that's hip in the hood these days.
That's been something that's been going on for at least 5 years. So why is this hip
not at all.
with it at the moment?
It's cool now because I'm doing it. So it was the last straw recently when I saw OnePlus were gathering data from their users, like everything, like all the MAC address, all their details. And for those who don't know, I have a OnePlus 3T, and so the default install on their Oxygen OS was gathering stuff. They've since said, oh no, we're not going to do that anymore, which is like great. But it just was kind of the last straw. I've been thinking about switching to Lineage OS, the spiritual successor to Cyanogen, for some time. I'm already running Lineage on my OnePlus X spare phone and on my Nexus 7 2013 tablet. And I thought, well, it'd be nice to get them all consistent. And that was the last straw. I thought, stuff this, I'm going to switch. So I did a tiniest bit of research. And by research, I mean I asked Joe Ressington on the Ubuntu Podcast Telegram channel, which is ubuntupodcast.org/telegram, how one goes about doing this. And he said, just follow the wiki or whatever. And he said everything seems to work. I had worries about some proprietary things that may not have worked under Lineage.
Such as?
I was worried about Netflix and Android Pay.
Right.
And unfortunately, Joe was no help because he uses neither of those. But I did a bit of Googling and found other people who said, like, once you've rooted your device, those things stop working. They're detected, and for safety, security, blah, blah, they stop working. But then someone else in our Telegram channel said, you need this special piece of software, Magisk or something like that.
Ooh.
And it hides the rootedness of your device from applications. Now, I don't know whether this will work long term, but it certainly works now. I now have Android Pay and Netflix working on Lineage OS on my OnePlus 3T.
Very interesting, because I tried to put Lineage on my Nexus 9 and ran into the precise problem where I could not use Netflix anymore. And the whole reason I was updating it and wiping it was because I wanted to turn it into a media device. So I had to go back to the Google official firmware in order to get all that stuff to go again.
Which is strange, because I have Lineage without this tool on it, on my Nexus 7, and it works, and Netflix works fine. Now, I don't know if I installed it before this nonsense happened, so I'm okay.
Yeah, it was fairly recent.
It was, yeah.
Yeah, and then the issue I had is that Netflix and Amazon Prime worked, except that the video was black. So the audio, you could hear the audio, but all the video was black.
Oh, right.
So that was how the...
So the problem other people have been having is you can't even see it in the store. You can't even see the app.
Oh, yeah. No, that was actually an issue when I side-loaded it, and then it was black. Yeah.
Right. So, yeah, I'm having fun. I'm quite enjoying Lineage. It feels like the performance is a little bit slower. I feel like the GPU isn't, I don't know, it just doesn't feel as smooth as it was under Oxygen OS. And I don't know if that's some blob that they're missing or some tuning that they haven't done, or whether it's just my perception.
OnePlus did claim they'd done a lot of tuning on the software side of things.
But I'll suck it up for now and just use Lineage, which for me is working really nicely.
Cool. Martin, what have you been doing?
I have been playing Rust a lot.
Is this the new programming language from Mozilla?
No, not that Rust. No, Rust, the survival game that you can get on Steam.
And
this is... go on.
Sorry. Have you been playing this with Alan, who I know plays this quite a bit?
I have. It's all Alan's fault, in fact. So
you're welcome.
He has been sharing with me how much fun he's been having playing this game online with a bunch of other Linux enthusiasts via the Gaming on Linux Rust server. And I thought, this does sound like fun. I'm going to give this a go. So I bought a copy of Rust, and I don't know, about a week ago, I logged in for the first time. And every evening since I've been playing Rust, I've been having an absolute whale of a time. As much for the people that are on the gaming on Linux server as anything, because they're a good crowd and it's really good fun to play with them.
Do you know how many hours you've clocked up in Rust?
Close to 60 in under a week.
Wow.
Because I've been playing when I finished work, and a couple of occasions I've played till 4 a.m.
Yeah. I've clocked up 300 hours in it so far, but I've been playing for a while. But,
so if anyone wonders why Ubuntu Mate hasn't been getting the normal amount of attention.
There are 2 bugs that have not been fixed as a result of Rust, I have to say. It's been good for me, though. So what has been fixed, however, is I moved
Rust performance on Ubuntu Mate.
Well, not just Rust performance, but I moved my Razer Core, which is the external graphics device, to my main machine, and plugged that in to get better performance and all the rest of it. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, I've got 2 screens, and I got the NVIDIA in the Thunderbolt external enclosure doing 3D rendering on one screen, and the IGP from the NUC doing the rendering on the other screen, but it's a seamless X session, so you can move windows from screen to screen, and the acceleration follows the window. So I've made some changes to the Optimus applet in Mate to improve that experience. So something good has come out of it for Ubuntu Mate users, at least.
Great.
Awesome.
Right, let's get on with the show.
And here it is, the news. And first in the news this week, Telegram have been fined for not decrypting messages, which sounds backwards to me. Apparently, Telegram have been fined $14,000. Am I supposed to put my pinky in the corner of my mouth when I say this?
Doesn't sound like a large enough number.
Doesn't sound like a lot of money, does it? No. By the FSB for failing to help with the decryption of users' messages. So
I think we should probably say the FSB is the Russian Federal Security Service.
Right, which is akin to the... I
guess our MI5 kind of people.
Yeah. And they stated, so Telegram stated that the request breaches Russian constitutional right to privacy of communication, in addition to not being technically feasible.
Yes, this is a terrible thing to do. Also, it's impossible.
Yes, exactly. Yes, there's something our government could learn from that statement, I think.
Yes. It does kind of feel like this is more of a sort of a shot across the bow, being it's not, as we said, it's not a massive amount of money, but it could be like maybe the shape of things to come. It's slightly worrying. But
does it say what the FSB were after? Was it, in inverted commas, terrorism related, or was there any kind of indication as to what they wanted the messages for?
Not in the story I was reading. It was just they asked Telegram for help in decrypting users' messages. It didn't go into any more detail than that in what I read, but I didn't look into the background of it in much detail, I must admit.
Interesting. I have mixed feelings about Telegram, because obviously the back end is non-free, much like many of the services we use these days to communicate. The client is free software, but that's largely irrelevant, because once your messages disappear off into the cloud, it's impossible to know what's happening with them. And the vast majority of chats that I have are unencrypted on Telegram, in terms of it's not secure end-to-end chat with the chats disappearing, like, someone who was wanting to communicate something interesting to a journalist, or wanted to talk directly to someone, of the ilk of Edward Snowden, might want automatically disappearing messages with end-to-end encryption. And most of my messages is trivial nonsense and cat pictures. So I don't use the encryption, but obviously there's clearly going to be data in there that if someone did hack the Telegram servers, or or Telegram turned bad, or a government agency was spying on that kind of stuff, they could see that information. So it is a worry that, we're putting data in these third-party services. You're clearly not that worried then. Okay, I'll move on.
Well, I was just thinking that, Telegram is sponsored by a Russian oligarch, and I can't see that $14,000 is going to make him sway from his mission to have a secure messaging service.
Right. It is today, But lots of systems, like WhatsApp was an independent company and now it's owned by Facebook. You wouldn't have known that was going to happen 8 years ago when it started or whenever it was. Anyway, yeah, it's a worry, but yeah, good to see them standing up to the FSB.
Yeah, and they are appealing, so we shall see.
It's very appealing. I wasn't expecting a groan or a laugh. In other news, companies appear to be leaving the default credentials for various things on cloud management consoles. And when they do that, they found people hack in and use their systems for nefarious purposes. Who knew that would happen? Right?
Hasn't that been happening forever?
No, this is a new thing. This is news, yo. People
right.
But the difference is, previously, people would discover these credentials and they would use your system for, sending spam, or it would be a command and control instance for controlling botnets or something like that. These days, it's all about the cryptocurrencies, man. And so, security company Gemalto and an insurer Aviva are among those who've been affected by their machines being infected with Bitcoin mining tools.
A security company and an insurer are among those affected. Is that what you just read?
That's apparently what it says. Yes.
Wow.
This is just it's like
that
people
should be
having
the headline.
It's people having software like Kubernetes, which lets you spin up and manage virtual infrastructure, and leaving that with default credentials. And it seems that there's tools to automatically seek out these things and spin up Bitcoin miners and the like, and then harvest coinage.
I'd be fascinated to know what the extent of the systems that are exploitable in that way are, and how much Bitcoin they're able to generate.
And whether you're going to use it for your next investment.
Well, no,
it's got to be enough to make it
because
worthwhile.
I know what the difficulty's like to mine Bitcoin right now. You'd need a real load of devices, with CPU mining to really make anything significant at all.
Right, but it's got to be worth it, otherwise they wouldn't be doing
exactly.
it.
This is why I'd be fascinated to know what the numbers are behind it, because it must be colossal, in which case.
The whole thought that, there's no point Bitcoin mining is not necessarily that it's not worth it because it's computationally expensive. It's not worth it because it's expensive in terms of the power that it costs for you to run the machine to do it. But these are not your machines. It's not your power bill. So but also from your point of view, it's free.
Yeah, but the difficulty is such right now that you really can't mine on a CPU any significant amount of coin at all, if any at all.
No, but you can distribute.
And I can't see what the scale is at which point you have 2 million CPUs and it's actually, producing something tangible.
Right, but typically, if you leave your cloud credentials somewhere, that will probably allow someone to spin up more than one VPS. You could spin up and, quite a data center full of machines. And when those credentials get discovered, you move on to the next guy and the next guy and the next guy. And I don't doubt that it's hard, and I don't doubt that you probably don't get a huge amount out of it, but Bitcoin is expensive, and there are lots of machines in the cloud that you could exploit to do this. So it must be worth it, or you wouldn't do it.
Yep. No, I don't deny it. Like I say, I'd love to know what the numbers are.
Speaking of cloud, Mark.
Next up, Google has announced an Edward Snowden level of account security for your Google services. So this is a new mode which you can put your account in, which is a hyper-paranoid mode designed for people like journalists or activists who might be at risk of state-sponsored hacking and the like of their emails and their files. And it basically locks down your accounts so that your data can only be accessed from Google Apps and requires specialist authentication dongles every time you want to access things.
Do they also provide a blanket that you can throw over yourself and your laptop so you can type your password in and your passphrase without anyone being able to see you? Because I've seen Edward Snowden and that's what he does.
Really?
Yes. There was if you've ever seen any of the interviews with him, where he's in a hotel room in Russia as a journalist, I think it is either Laura Poitras or Glenn Greenwald in the room with him, maybe with some other journalist, and he has to log on to something. And at that point, he gets his laptop out and throws a blanket over himself and the laptop and starts typing in his key or getting his key somehow and logging in using his super secret special methods.
It's interesting. I think you have to provide your own blanket.
Well, that's just rubbish. So why is this not the default, do you think?
Because it's a massive pain and
security,
people,
it's a pain.
Yeah. Because if you lose either, you have to have a USB dongle with you to log in on the desktop, and you have to have a Bluetooth dongle to log in on your phone. And if you lose either of those, then it's a massive rigmarole, which wasn't specified in the article I read, to get access back to your account for obvious reasons, because you wouldn't want someone to just be able to ring up and say, "Oh, I lost it, let me in."
But this is just so maddening that people can phone up your mobile phone provider and with social engineering, or your email provider with social engineering, monkey around and redirect your phone to their SIM card so that they can get your SMS, so that they can use it for two-factor, that kind of issue. It's just maddening that in order to have something really secure, you have to go through all of these hoops. And that's not available to everyone. It's impossible for normal. And I know encryption is hard, but it's just frustrating that not everyone can have access to this tool that allows you to be safe online when you're using these Google tools. Is that unfair?
No, it's reasonable, but the thing is that Google wouldn't make any money off of the freemium service of Gmail if they did that. So they're making this a premium feature, so they continue to make money doing that.
I mean, I like it. I like the idea that there is a method by which you can use nice utilities like Gmail and other Google applications. And if you're in a position like a journalist or a dissident or someone who is likely to be under the watchful gaze of their government, that there are tools that you can use that enable this to happen. Like typically you'd have to run your own server or use some third-party server that then gets shut down because they won't give up the keys to the government. Lavabit, for example.
Yes.
Yeah, it's good that it exists. It's just a shame that not everyone can have that. Yeah, well, that as well, yeah. Tell us some good news, Martin.
Well, continuing this week's security news special, just in, the UK TV drama about North Korea has been hit by a cyber attack. So there's
people didn't watch it. Is that a cyber attack?
It hasn't been made, and herein lies the controversy. Oh. So there's a pre-production show that's been created or scripted called I think it's Opposite Number by Mammoth Screen, who are part of Channel 4's independent creators network. And they have revealed that it suffered a cyber attack after announcing their new drama. The premise of which is a British scientist being taken prisoner in North Korea. And apparently the North Korea government called on the UK government to put a stop to the show to avoid damaging the close relationships that we obviously enjoy with them.
That would have been a shame to ruin our relationship with North Korea.
Our special relationship with North Korea.
But the undercurrent to this is that the show had failed to secure funding, and there is some rumour mongering going on that maybe this story was fabricated in order to secure funding to see that this show got created.
Interesting.
Yeah, so watch this space. Maybe the Opposite Number might get created now. We shall have to see. But these stories about North Korea hacking other nation states, I've always wondered, who is it in North Korea that's learning how to do all of this sophisticated hacking? Is it the farmers in the paddy fields? Because, they look like super elites.
Well, to be fair, they do have educated people in normal positions of employment that you would expect in the West. It's just that whenever Westerners go over to North Korea, you never get to interact with those people. You get chaperoned around the place and you're only allowed to stay in one hotel, which is on an island. So, you never get to interact with any of these people that could well be doing this.
Right.
But the fact remains, we haven't proven this has happened. Nobody's proven this has happened, and it could well be scaremongering in order to generate revenue. Maybe it's not. Who knows?
But, they do at least have people who are capable of building nuclear weapons. We know that much.
So let's move on. There must be something in the news that's not security related this week, Alan.
Well, no. There was an interesting security issue that was revealed relating to wireless networks, and you'll be happy to learn that it has an interesting name, a domain name, and a logo.
Excellent.
Oh, I haven't seen the logo.
It's not a very good logo, I have to say.
House.
Yes, exactly. It's the key reinstallation attacks, which is nicely abbreviated into crack attacks.
Nice.
Which reminds me of Crackerjack from the past.
Cabbage.
Oh, I've just seen the logo. That is rubbish.
Yes. So that's good, isn't it? But anyway, it turns out there's a problem with Wi-Fi. If you update your system, then you'll probably be fine, unless you're running Android or you've got some wireless router that doesn't provide updates, in which case you're screwed, and it's the end of the world.
So the router isn't the main problem. It's mainly the client side that needs to be patched, although I think there was a suite of issues which were announced together. So the big horrible one is a client side thing, but there are other issues which you'll need to patch on your router. I believe there's already a fix out there for Ubuntu.
So as we record this, I've seen fixes land in all of the Fedora and Red Hat OSs, Debian and Ubuntu.
Yeah.
I saw that Solus had done it. I'm sure OpenSUSE have as well, because they're all part of that same, group of embargoed, organizations.
Yeah.
So I would say with a degree of confidence that if you're running one of the mainstream Linux distributions and you do your updates, you'll be fine.
Cool.
However,
it sounds like
I have checked for updates on my phone and Wi-Fi routers today, and no such luck.
Yeah, Android. I think Google said that Android's November patch round will have
only another 3 weeks to wait. Then that's good.
Yeah.
Lineage said that. Sorry, Mark. Lineage said that all builds done after this tweet goes out will have it. So I've been refreshing my OnePlus 3T and I've not seen any builds yet, but I expect there's a ton of builds that they have to do. So I would expect it will arrive within the next week or so.
And there is for Gargoyle routers, Martin, there is a build available, but it's not an actual release. It's just the code. It basically the fix has gone into OpenWRT, which is the upstream project, and they've updated their code to pull that version. So any builds of Gargoyle from
and just for that reference, Gargoyle is a router OS project that runs on many wireless routers, but a bit like DDWRT and OpenWRT.
So you mentioned OpenWRT. Before the show started, I SSH'd into my OpenWRT running router and ran O-package update, O-package list updates, and there were no updates. So,
It might be that it's not packaged yet. They've not done a release of it, but because all they did in Gargoyle was update a git commit ID for the code that it pulls from OpenWRT. So it might be that they've not actually packaged a release of it yet with the fixes.
Okay. We should wait and see. Keep an eye on that one.
Have we got any privacy news to finish on?
Privacy news? I'm not sure we have. We do have some crowdfunding news if you'd like that.
Go on then.
The Librem 5 phone has passed its funding goal.
Are they not privacy focused?
I suppose they are.
Excellent.
If you want to put it like that.
Well done to Purism.
So they've raised $1.5 million. There we go. We got one of those in.
At the time of recording, they've raised $1.78 million, which is 18% over their target, which was, as you say, $1.5 million. And as we record this, they've got 6 days to go. And hopefully this means in 2019.
2019.
There will be a phone that will be shipping out to lots of people running either GNOME or KDE. We're not entirely sure. Maybe UB ports. Who knows? But it's a privacy focused phone and they passed their goal. So, yay.
Hooray.
Well done, Librem. And now it's time for the community news and events, but we have no events, so it's just community news. First up, this week, as we record, is final freeze for Ubuntu Artful 17.10. So the release date for Ubuntu 17.10 is the 19th of October, which is Thursday, the 19th of October. It always releases on a Thursday.
As you're listening to this, you should have access to the final release of Ubuntu 17.10.
Maybe. Depends how late we release this episode.
and how late the release is on the 19th. But yes, chances are it's out now.
So on the release team, Adam Conrad posted out the notification that final freeze had happened on Thursday the 12th. And he said Artful's entered the final freeze in preparation for the final release. Uploads in the queue will be reviewed and either accepted or rejected appropriately by pre-freeze standards. But anything from here on should fit two broad categories. We're only going to accept release critical bugs that affect ISO's installers or otherwise can't easily be fixed post-release, or bug fixes that be suitable for post-release SRUs. So basically, it's only critical bugs from here on in until the release on Thursday.
Yep.
Yeah, so I believe that there was some talk of including the updates for the WPA stuff in the release. Do you know if that's going ahead?
I don't
know categorically if it's going to be baked in the ISOs or an update after the ISOs.
But it's funny because we've experienced this before. I think it was 804 was when the SSH issue happened, where there was like a key problem that there was some key collision thing that happened. I think it had a name, but it wasn't so recent that they had a logo and a domain name. And the ISOs were made, and we actually pressed CDs that had the SSH issue on them. And so there were loads of those sent out via the Ship It service. I've told this story before, I know, sorry. That were sent out, and they all had that SSH issue on. So we had to...
Did you put a Post-it note on them saying apt update?
It would have been apt get update then, but yes. No, I ended up with a load that I refused to give out because I felt really bad giving out CDs that had this significant security issue on. So we respanned them. But so 1710 out on Thursday. It's really worth upgrading to if you're into non-LTS releases. We did a little video hangout with Ubuntu On Air, myself, Martin, and Jean-Baptiste from the QA team on Monday this week, where we went through how you could test out the final image and, shake it down on your systems to make sure that it all works okay. And that was really good fun. We got loads of really good feedback, and we got loads of people watching that and getting involved with testing the ISOs.
And I've seen a number of bugs get raised as a result of that endeavor as well. So that's really great.
That was exactly the goal.
Yeah.
So, it's really good to see 1710 finally released soon as we record this. Yeah. We'll talk more about that in next week's episode, I think.
Yeah. And for those people that did raise bugs already for 1710, don't be disappointed if you don't see your bug fixed in the release image. As we explained in the live stream, these are bugs that will get fixed at some point. So when you apt upgrade your system and you see all those updates come down, they're not just security fixes for crack attack or whatever it was we were talking about earlier, but also these bugs that you get raised in the community are also in those updates. So they're delivered as what's called an SRU, a service release update. So those bugs do get fixed, and that's what you're seeing when you update your system post release.
Good news.
Yep. Meanwhile, our friend Didier Roche, who's from the Ubuntu desktop team, is still blogging. So he's been writing a series of blogs.
We've locked him in a room and he can't. Yeah. He's not allowed out until he finishes.
I think
blogging.
It might feel like that to Didier because he has been writing these blogs. What's amusing to me is Didier. Next time you have to write one of these blog series, don't start it with day 1, day 2, because you've just posted day 15, and I remember reading day 1 about 3 months ago. So these are, I think, a day. Each of them are a day in the life of an Ubuntu desktop team developer, and the changes that have been introduced over time.
They're not subsequent days necessarily.
They're not. No, they are 15 days of activity, and it really sort of takes you through the journey of we're running Unity 7 and getting to how we have the GNOME 3 implementation with the Ubuntu customizations, and Didier has posted another excellent article covering off, the last few steps that have been conducted to complete that transition.
Cool.
It really is super interesting blog posts. It's really refreshing to see a lot of activity and interest around this release, because for so many releases, there's been this, undercurrent of, oh, it's a new release, nothing really has happened. But with the significant change of going from Unity to GNOME Shell, it's quite a big change for us and quite a big change for our users. And,
indeed,
for some users, it's not as favorable as they wanted because they wanted to keep Unity, but, they can stay on 1604, or they can keep Unity if they really, really want to. But it's really nice to see a lot of activity around people interested in what's going on with GNOME on Ubuntu.
Mm-hmm. And next up, KDE Plasma 5.11 has been released, and they've got a whole host of updates and improvements to various bits of the Plasma desktop. So these include a new design for the system settings, history for notifications, improvements to the task manager and app launcher, a feature called Plasma Vault, which is meant to be like a user-friendly way of creating encrypted file storage.
Oh, right. Nice.
Yeah. And my favourite, having recently played with high DPI displays, I think they've got high DPI right. And what I mean by that is they've got it where you can have two displays with different pixel densities, and you can have a window that is, you can drag it between and it stays the same physical size but changes density, and that includes having it sitting across the two across the two monitors.
That is impressive.
So yeah, they've got a screenshot showing it. I
wonder
if
that's using
really
Wayland to achieve that.
It is using Wayland to achieve that.
Okay. Wow, yes. That's quite something.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's really cool to see.
I quite liked it's interesting, the settings design that they've updated is similar in some ways to the new GNOME settings thing, where you have the vertical panel on the left hand side and then the main content on the right hand side. Seems to be a meme going around platforms at the moment, is that whole list of settings on the left and the actual content on the right.
Somebody somewhere saw a screenshot of like Mac OS 6 control center and has decided that's the way to go. It reminds me very much of that.
Right. It's very similar to an iPad and iPhones.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's very much finger friendly. Yeah. And when you see Android on a tablet. And we should also say many happy returns to the KDE project, who very recently celebrated their 21st anniversary.
Yeah, either 21st or 20th, depending upon what you believe, whether you measure it based on the project starting or the first beta release. But yeah, it's now, I don't know, legally able to drink or something, I guess.
Yeah. And I guess if you want to try out Plasma 5.11 on an Ubuntu base, then KDE Neon would be a good choice.
Yeah, I just updated my Neon VM when I saw that 5.11 was out. I booted up my VM and updated it. Everything was smooth as silk in the update. I had like 580 packages to upgrade because I don't update it that often. And then rebooted, had a poke around, tried out a few other things. Obviously, I couldn't try the Wayland stuff because it's in a VM, and I don't have multi-monitor in that VM. But yeah, everything seemed pretty funky. I was blown away by, as I always am with KDE, blown away by the the number of options there are for everything. Like,
Yeah.
I remember when Unity first came out, I complained about the fact that there was no setting for sloppy focus, where the focus follows the mouse. And I like sloppy focus. And KDE has taken sloppy focus to a new level. There is a slider with like 6 different options for sloppy focus. I'm like content with, I want it either switched on or switched off, and I either want the window to raise or not. And this thing had 6 different options in the slider, and as you slide them across, there's text describing the behavior, so you can fully understand what you're getting into when you choose this option. And then immediately underneath that, there's a line that says, you probably don't want this option. This is probably the option you want. This one, probably not. So I'm not a tweaker, and I'm not the kind of person who likes to like fiddle with lots of different settings, but I can totally see why KDE is so appealing to people who like to be able to fiddle and adjust everything and get it exactly just so. It's great for that.
Excellent. Right, and I think that's all the community news and events.
Are you an alternative freedom hater? Thought so. We know you lot love Overcast. Cleanse your soul by giving each show a freedom-loving thumbs up in the app.
And that's all for episode 33. We'll be back next week, where we'll be discussing the freshly released Ubuntu 17.10, and we'll bring you some command line love.
Excellent. Looking forward to that.
Yep. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I look forward to hearing what other people think of 1710 as well. So do send us your feedback,
Yes.
and maybe we'll read it out on next week's show.
Good luck with that. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Stop now. Stop.